howdy everybody. If anything, we're doing yet another movies defying logic video because I like doing them. So we're gonna just keep doing them, even if there's no viewership. Because the first one there wasn't really any views, so I'm just gonna keep doing them anyways. If anything, to share just a little bit about my life. Today, if you consistently see in other videos, if you consistently see this shirt or me looking the exact same in most of these videos, I think I cranked out 4 or 5. This will be my 5th video of this same exact day, and it's about 6:15 in the morning. I haven't slept all night, trying to crank out videos. So if you eventually see this shirt, you'll know that this was shot in one whole day. I'd say a lot of these things because this video probably won't get any viewership. So, I guess I should bring up the shut my mouth thing that's going around on my channel. If you watch this video and try to get as much viewership of it, that would be great. If we get to my monetization goal, I will no longer put subscription buttons on my thumbnails. I will no longer delay and say stuff about my life and stuff instead of getting to the subject, because I'm gonna just continue to bring this shut my mouth challenge up until it annoys the heck out of somebody to the point where they'll help me out or whatever. Okay. I think that's good enough. I think we can get to the meat of the subject. It only took me 2 minutes this time, guys. Isn't that beautiful? Because I think I have a lot of stuff I actually kind of jotted down some stuff for the sequel of this. Because I had a lot flowing through the first one. And I just keep coming back to it. Okay. This video is movies that defy logic, meaning if there is something in a video that is baffling or is just like, well, clearly that's wrong, or clearly that's clearly they should fix that somehow, or I'll think tank a way of how to make something better. But anything, the first thing that I really want to bring up is that there seems to be a universal sound for something. Meaning, if you look back at a lot of the monster movies, each one of the monster movies had, whenever a monster would make a sound, it would sound just like a bear. And that would be from Ghostbusters, that would be from werewolf movies, that would be from like, take your pick of any old monster movie and a bear sound like that would be the sound for every monster. And of course, whenever you would get a laser in a movie, it would always be the pew 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 pew. It would always sound like that. There's never really been much of modifications to that sound since its first. Like, I even think that we still have future movies where they have laser guns and it still does the pew 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 sound. And I'm sure there's still monster movies where they still do the sound for monsters. Anyways, let's talk about weaponry. First off, I'm going to bring up the point where it's kind of funny how the good people of these stories are deadly accurate with weaponry, and then the bad people are very horrible at shooting. Like, it seems like, for example, like if you look at a Star Wars film where a guy with just a shirt and pants on and no helmet, um, he could probably kill 3 or 4 guys. Where these 3 or 4 guys going and, or even 10 guys having to shoot 1 or 2 people, they clearly miss. Ridiculously so. If anything, I would have appreciated if, like, at least if good people, like, at least would get wounded once in a while. But if you look at each one of these kinds of shows, movies, whatever, you'll always see that where it's just like the good guys are super accurate at shooting, and the bad guys are way awful. I think it's funny how some people that say it's like, oh, I've never handled a gun before, they become extremely accurate very quickly. It's funny how you get like somebody that's like never done that's supposedly never really done much for crossbows or whatever, but then all of a sudden they like easily can cock it back and everything like that. And crossbows, I think, are very difficult to do because it looks easy on a TV or film or whatever, but I think it's very hard. But anyways, still speaking of weaponry, it's funny in monster movies how like movies like Jaws or like Placid, or Anaconda or something like that, like a big monster or whatever, they have to come up with these super creative ways to kill these monsters. Like Lake Placid, a giant alligator, they had to come up with this weird cannon gun thing. It was just weird. And if anything, I think it's funny how like in like Jeepers Creepers, like that's the only like movie that I really enjoy because it goes with inventive ways of how to kill this guy, of how to kill this Jeepers Creepers. But if anything, after the second one, it's just kind of like this guy just completely becomes unstoppable, and then it just like it's I think the first and second one are good to watch, but then the third one is just it's just ridiculous. It's just like this Jeepers Creepers character becomes just so like there's no way that anybody could touch this guy with a 100-foot pole, because he'll come up with some kind of spear weapon that'll hit you from 100 feet away and still get you. So it's just it gets crazy after the second one. But anyways, it's just kind of funny how like they come up with these super creative ways to kill big monsters, but then like a person like Michael Myers or Jason or Freddy or something like that, they don't really get very creative after a certain point. It's just kind of like, well, how about we burn them in this movie? Okay, how about we poke out their eyes? And that's yet another point that I'm gonna get to very soon, probably right now, is the point that nobody ever goes for the eyes. Everybody always goes for the stomach, or like a part that like a killer is just gonna come right back from. I think that immediately when somebody is trying to go after somebody, they should always go for the eyes. Especially if they're somewhat close to the person, or like, cause I don't know, once you go for the eyes of somebody, then like they're pretty much freaking just out. Like if anything, I think that should have been one thing where uh, if Michael Myers or like a Jason or whatever comes back all the time, it's like, well, immediately have like a sniper present and shoot their eyes kind of thing. It's just like, or like maybe pull their eyes out the last time you meet them and have their eyes like displayed somewhere safe to where Jason or Freddy or whoever will never get to them, and then they'll just be blind killers or something. But yeah, but it annoys me how like people never try and like chop off somebody's arm or leg to really slow them down. It just never happens. Like if anything, like Thanos in Infinity War, where he had to have the gauntlet and the hand or whatever, they could have chopped off his hand, and if he would have tried to switch it into the other hand, they could have cut that one off too. Then what is he gonna do? Put the Infinity Gauntlet on his foot? Is he gonna do that then? I don't think so. Uh, Not spoiling that movie because really it's just inventive thinking of my thoughts. Anyways, because I have notes on here. Uh, let's go with. Uh, duh, duh, duh. Let's go with accidental advantages. I think the perfect example of this would be the Predator movie, where Arnold just so happens to get out of the water and accidentally rolls around in mud, and then the Predator doesn't see him, and then for the rest of the movie he like tries to put on mud so that way the Predator won't see him, and so then they fight together. Like, I think that something like that should have been wrote better. Because it just seemed like they wrote that in but couldn't come up with a creative way to. Like, I think in the newer Predator with the Topher Grace one and the Lawrence Fishburne one, I think that one was written better to do the whole like heat signature thing, and he has fire all around him, and I think that was written more creatively than just like, because I think like there's so many of these movies where somebody accidentally just picks something up, and then the monster starts to like slowly walk away, and then it's like, oh, you're afraid of this, huh? And then they like light. Like if somebody's afraid of fire or light or whatever, it just so happens that somebody picks that up and then shines it or whatever, and then the creature's like, ah! And that kills it. It's just like accidental advantage for the hero. Like the water for Signs. That was yet another one where like accidentally because there was so much water around the whole room that eventually somebody had to knock over one of the bottles of water, or one of the cups of water, and there had to be an alien there, and then cups of water, and and then all of a sudden, poof, there's like 30 cups of water for Meryl to swing away at. Accidental advantage. Next, I think we should go on to let's go on to life or death. Make money. Meaning, if there is something, I think that reality show that they did on that one Halloween movie kind of proves this point, where you have Busta Rhymes and he makes a reality show out of Michael Myers' house because they have these people there to be in Michael Myers' house on Halloween to try to, I guess, make some kind of money out of this reality show, and hopefully people get scared or have sex or whatever, and like eventually somebody tries to help the girl that's left in the Michael Myers house via all the cameras. A guy from the other end helps her out through all this and tries to get her to get away from Michael Myers, and she's like, "Oh my God, if I find you, guy, I'm gonna smooch you or kiss you or whatever." And everybody in the back room and with this guy are just really excited because, like, "Yeah, man, you did it!" And he's like, "Yeah, I helped there, I guess." But then there's also Jaws is really the perfect example, where the guy that owns this beach is just so dead set on, like, well, these people need to swim. It's the summertime. I gotta get people out here. We're losing money every day. But there's a shark attack. But this guy just doesn't freaking care. He's just like, we're losing money every day. And every time that they open this beach back up and let these people swim, somebody freaking dies. And then he's like, but still, we need to have this open because we need to make some quiche. We gotta make some money. This is a popular beach. And it's just like, but dude, people are freaking dying. People are being killed by a huge shark that you guys cannot miraculously kill. It's like, if you had much better equipment to kill this freaking thing and have it be a much shorter movie, everything would be okay. But it seems like that this beach keeps continuously getting attacked by these giant sharks, and still this guy is just like, but we gotta keep this beach open. Dude, this beach is a freaking lost cause. It's just like Camp Crystal Lake, where they kept having the camp open years after Michael Myers or Jason kept killing people. They kept keeping the camp open for people to be there, and it's just stupid. You would think it's just like, oh well, after that first or second movie they'd probably just cut their losses, but no, they kept the camp open. It's like, well, hopefully this doesn't happen next year. I think this unstoppable force Jason, I'm sure he won't come back. It'll be fine. But year after year, people kept getting killed in this camp. I think we should try and do action movies, because I think I mostly did a lot of horror movies. If anything, action stars getting way too easily angered to the point, or people that are trying to go out of their way to avoid fighting in a film. There's some people where they, if you sneeze on them the right way, they want to like chop you in half, so to speak. And then there's some people like Jackie Chan in most of his movies where he's like, I don't want trouble, and then he ends up beating everybody anyways, because he gets pushed so hard into having to fight these people. But he's like, no, I don't want to fight, I don't. And like, that's every one of his movies seemingly, where he ends up all the time going, no, I don't want to fight, and then he ends up fighting. But there's several examples of, like, I think Wolverine, of Hugh Jackman's Logan Wolverine movies, where it seems like if he gets into a small argument with somebody, like that's when the claws start popping out, and he just starts like decking people and killing people or really wounding people. Um, and all of this could have all ended with just a conversation that Wolverine just stubbornly didn't want to have. And but even when they have a small conversation, it's just like Wolverine just can't hold his anger in. He can't swallow his anger. And anything, Nicolas Cage in the movie Con Air, where Nicolas Cage got home from the military, and so there's a couple guys that kind of bug him in a bar, and so he tries to get out of it, but then once he goes out of the bar, like they're there to meet him and they want to start a fight because they see his awards and all this stuff, and so they're just like, oh yeah, you're such a great guy and blah blah blah. So then instead of Nicolas Cage just kind of just like still trying to avoid this, eventually he fights all these guys and he almost, I think, kills all of them. And the judge, when he sentenced them, he's just like, well, like, you know what, like, I understand you were in the military or whatever, but you were basically registered as a lethal weapon. Like, if anything, you could have really just knocked these people up, but you went out of your way to just kill these people, so you're going to prison, buddy. But yeah, I guess if anything, we can go to the next one, which is an action thing, where it's guns versus magic. And I didn't mention this on the last one, but I wore a Suicide Squad mask, and I was gonna reference that, but I never did. If anything, it's kind of funny how, like, in Suicide Squad, the main villain is a magical being, and all of the Suicide Squad, like except for El Diablo and maybe Killer Croc, are mostly characters that throw things or shoot things or have a baseball bat. And that doesn't make sense at all to go up against a character that can basically do anything because she's magical. Doesn't make sense. I think that's what bugged a lot of people, and that's the reason why a lot of people said it would have made a lot more sense if the first villain was the Joker. Because if anything, then maybe in the next iteration of Suicide Squad, you could have had more powerful characters because it would have made sense, because you're like, oh, well, this one we really struggled to win this first battle, so now we're going to get even more uber powerful people for the Suicide Squad, and now it'll, like, make sense to go up against this Enchantress. But that just didn't happen. Sadly enough. Just didn't happen, guys. Anyways, let's go to stealth. Nope. And this is probably right back to the movie Predator, or Hunger Games. There's quite a few times in movies where, like, in a most of the time, even like almost in Rambo, but it works for Rambo. There's quite a few times, but I think the perfect example of this is either Predator or Hunger Games, really. There is one character in Hunger Games that is very stealthy, but then again, this person ends up getting killed protecting PETA. But, like, she would have, PETA would have never seen this person coming from a mile away because they were so, camouflaged. But it's funny how it seemingly seems like each one of these kind of very camouflagey people um, really seem to never last very long in films. Predator is the perfect example because you know how many times like the Predator goes completely invisible, and by like sound or just something, uh, people easily find him and easily try and kill him. And I think it's just funny, a person that you shouldn't be able to see at all, like eventually, like stealth just doesn't work for them. If anything, it's funny those guys in the Predator movie, how a lot of them, like I said, camouflage themselves, but eventually somehow will easily be seen. Um, but yeah, it's just funny how like if you're stealthy, stealthy doesn't always work, or um, or you can still get killed by blending in. Uh, it's kind of hilarious that something like that, where you shouldn't have been seen at all, you still do. If anything going on. Because I wrote down notes. Um, okay. I'm gonna have these two things, and they're kind of gonna commingle with one another. When you see like a zombie movie or an alien infection movie where somebody like a Slither or like a Invasion of the Body Snatchers, or I think the later on in like Poltergeist it turns into some kind of weird uh, ghost thing where the people aren't who they are or whatever, something like that. Because their body like you can like peel off the skin is weird. But anyways, I think it's funny how like a zombie outbreak is just, it can't be controlled. How like an alien outbreak just can't be controlled. If anything, you get movies like The Fifth Wave, where a guy that you think is supposed to be the military and guys that you're supposed to trust are actually the villains in this movie. And it's funny how the people that they believe are doing the right things are actually doing the wrong things because they are getting information from aliens instead of human beings. And it just becomes a very interesting movie. And if anything, I probably spoiled that movie for you. I'm sorry. But anyways, there's movies like Dreamcatcher and like I said, like Invasion of the Body Snatchers and stuff like that, where or even the movie like The Faculty, where this alien zombie vampire werewolf invasion, so to speak, has spread much further than anybody could have thought in a very probably short amount of time. And I think it's funny how like a zombie kind of thing could be so hugely widespread when it like shouldn't you easily be able to take out like a zombie outbreak? Because like I could understand maybe in World War Z that probably is the movie that actually makes sense to where, because those zombies move way too freaking quick. I like it, even though I'm kind of 50-50, but I like the quicker moving zombies, like in the newer like Dawn of the Dead. But then I'm also kind of 50-50 about it, because if I were put in that circumstance, I would want like zombies to walk slower. I also like traditional zombies where they walk slow and it's hard for them to get to somebody. But then I also appreciate the fast moving zombies. I guess it all depends on how much is in their tank, so to speak. Of if they ate recently, then they're fast. If they haven't eaten recently, they're struggling to get to you. It probably makes more sense that way, and I think that would make for more interesting stories if they actually rationalized all of that. Uh, but I just think it's funny how something like that is so hard to be controlled. If you watch so many zombie movies, like they end up having to like drop bombs and stuff on certain cities um, to control the threat. But I think it's funny; it just makes things worse sometimes. Uh, but or like I Am Legend, like that's yet another movie where like how is it that this thing is so widespread? I guess you could probably throw in like the newer like Planet of the Apes things as well. How it's just like, man, that thing just like widely spreads so quickly. And then I think the next thing that I should get to is uh, missing people don't matter. Kind of like the outbreaks. I remember in the movie Urban Legend where some guy goes missing and the police girl that's in the town is like, yeah, this guy's gone missing, and the principal or whatever is like, oh, he's probably just shacked up with a girl or a guy or a goat. Like he's fine. Like if anything, we won't have to investigate him. Why waste our time? I'm sure that he's just going off a early spring break or something like that. And it's just like, and there's sometimes where you get this huge wall of missing people, and it's just like, hey, is anybody looking for any of those people? And it just seems like the cops like, nah. It's like they're all just missing. Whatever. We can't find these people. It's too bad for them. Woe is me. They're missing. But it's just like, dude, if there's a huge wall of missing people and it's just like swept under the rug, but it just creates like a crazy visual in a movie, it's just why isn't anybody really like looking for these people? Like I can understand if this is like a very small town or whatever, and they have like, because usually that's what it is. It's usually like a small town with like one sheriff or whatever. But like, man, if there's a huge amount of missing people, like why aren't like the feds or something called like for this kind of thing, or some big huge police thing? That's when it actually should make sense, for when like the feds and stuff are called. If there's just like a huge amount of missing people, then like shouldn't a higher up thing be called, or like National Guard or something? Like I don't get the protocol of police things, but holy crap. But if anyways, I guess let's continue to talk about the coppers, the police, these guys that are like, they work so hard, but in movies they are treated as if they are stupid, and I hate that. I hate that in a lot of these movies there isn't a lot of like smart cops. If anything, maybe in the Saw movies, like some of these detectives like start to get really smart. But like if you look at a lot of the old horror movies where like the Friday the 13th movies or Halloween movies or whatever, there's always some cop that's in there that sees Jason or sees Freddy or sees Michael Myers, and is always like, oh, hey guy, I like, the joke's over, buddy. It's like, come on, put the mask down. I'm only gonna tell you once. And then the Michael Myers or the Jason or whoever like stabs the cop, because the cop just like stands there and like holds his gun or something, and doesn't really like go like that's when you like, I don't know, there's so many times where like the sheriff or the deputy or whatever, they're like always taken out in all kinds of these movies. Like even in like the movie Goosebumps, the police force is quickly and easily taken out. And of course, they're made to look like goobers instead of real police people, and that's so sad. I like it in the movies where the sheriff and all that are really taking control, and uh, they're really onto something, and they're really trying to solve this whatever it is, whether it be like in The Last Stand where Arnold is trying to defend his town from this army of people that come in, or something like that, where he's just like, I'm old. He's like, how are you today, Sheriff? And he's like, old. Great, Sheriff. Old. uh, I don't know how much more time I have, because this will probably end soon. So if anyways, I'm going to say good luck and good night. Or good morning, I guess. But if anything, I'm just going to try and bash out as much notes as I can. I think the big thing that I keep avoiding to say on here is timing. Timing meaning stuff always breaks down, or something like that at the worst times. And you always have that convenient thing where somebody's on the railroad tracks and they try to start their car and it and like they're just like, come on, car, come on, and then the train is coming, and you have to either pick between you trying to continue to start your car or jumping out of your car. And like there's so many like things like that, especially in Final Destination, which I forgot, or I couldn't add in a certain amount of like 2 minutes worth of information from Final Destination from the last video, and I'll add it in here. There is a part that I didn't mention in the last video where I talk about the main character being putting himself in a cabin and death-proofing the whole cabin. But the thing is, death always still tries to come for this guy anyways. And anyways, he death-proofs the whole cabin. He's like, you can't get me, Death. And Death goes and has like a little fishing hook that's rusted that tries to attack this guy, miraculously enough. And then he dodges it, but then he looks at the little hook and he's just like, oh, I see what you're trying to go with, Death. I'm so far away from anybody, and I would have to go and get a tetanus shot. And because I don't have a tetanus shot, good job, Death. Nice try. But that's a very interesting way to do a scene where, like, if he would have tried to avoid death, it's like, well, you need a tetanus, so die slowly or die quickly, however you want to go. But anyways, back on to the subject. Everything breaking at convenient times. And it gets to a point where people run out of bullets at inconvenient times. People run out of lighting at inconvenient times. It all across the board. There's so many things that go wrong at the worst times. And you know it's just like a way to make something easier to be written in. Especially for horror movies, they do that too many times. Okay. Yeah, speaking of when I talk about people who start to become dumb, um, or completely, you're just like, yeah, I don't believe you or whatever. There's this one movie called Monster, and it has the symbol where it's like the line and the dot, monster. There's this one movie that I said called Monster, and this old man is talking to this young kid, and he's like, "Yeah, you're the hero of this movie, um, and yeah, cops will never believe you until this is all over. People will never believe you until this is all over." And like all the stuff that completely resonates with horror films, how like yeah, like everything will like not work for you during this time and everything like that. And it's just, it's funny because like to finally have a person tell another person like the classic movie tropes of um, that uh, that every movie follows by finally somebody's telling somebody that for somewhat sequel of a movie. But I enjoyed that movie for what it was, even though it was a fairly low budget movie. Uh, Anyways, I guess we should get on to. I guess I kind of covered this a little bit in the last one, but I think it's funny how so many people usually choose something like a locker or a closet to hide in. It's ridiculous. You choose the smallest area to hide from. You would think somebody would pick like the biggest area. So like if a monster starts coming, then you can quickly adjust to where that alien is or that monster is. You can adjust and move um like kind of have him like circle around you almost like a maze would probably be better than picking a locker or a closet. Um, and if anything, I think like Jeepers Creepers kind of does that as a smarter way, where so many people go into like a forest, and then like the Jeepers Creepers thing has to really work for it and try to find whoever these people are, because they're so engulfed in this forest or whatever that it's hard for the Jeepers Creepers person to find. And then eventually he just gives up and goes for somebody else that he sees nearby. I think that's just a smarter way to do something rather than going into a locker or a closet. It's been done so many times, even recently in the movie Split, where a girl like couldn't figure out how to exit this underground thing, so she just hides in a locker, and the Split personality villain of the movie, he's just like, dude, I know you're in there. It's like, I can smell you. It's like, I can smell your fear and all this. And he's like, you don't understand how advanced I am and this and that. But anything, I probably have way more notes than I probably should. So, like I said, this video might end soon. So, if anything, I might do another part of this. If this one actually creates interest, I don't know. If anything, I'm a little tired and wore down from doing so many videos in one day. Let's give you one more. It seems like a lot. I've almost covered most of this stuff, oddly enough.